Okay, so now we're really real. Now we're real.
Yes.
Hi and
Yeah.
welcome back. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us from all the way across the world. I think that that's so cool. I don't think that I ever really get used to the fact that like the great distances like that can be covered in and as if you were like in the next room.
Yeah. At least you understand that Australia is a real place. So,
Yeah, I'll give you that much. Like,
yeah.
and I'm stopping there. So it looks like we've solved our tech problems. I'm really glad to see that and that we're going to be able to move forward. I
Yep.
have all of your card selections made. I wanted to
Excellent.
talk about the fact that we're really here to do a very kind of D&D specific um, uh, session, to really
Yep.
explore for the purposes of actually doing like tabletop RPG and how
Yes. Yep.
this card system and creating story and character for RPG can how these two things work together and
Yep.
how fun and cool it is. One of the things that I have realized in working with card systems in general and creation systems is I've learned really quickly that there's a big difference between games that are for consumption and games that require creation. There
Yeah.
are many games out there that are just closed, complete worlds or systems that are just like delivery systems for fun,
Yes.
and you just sort of consume it. Like you play it, you ride the ride, but there's not a lot of you're not necessarily adding content
Yeah. Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with D&D and other tabletop RPGs, that factor is baked into the DNA of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, and the ones you start talking about, that's everything from, like Monopoly or chess right through to some of these really complex borderline role playing. Well, they are role playing games, but the story is there told for you. It's in, like you said, a closed environment where, and D&D kind of straddles that line a little bit. There are people who play it in very much a sort of, yep, this is the story that's being told, and we're going to make our own decisions, but really the plot is made out for us, right through to the sandbox environment which is the way I like to DM and play. And it all takes shape, and it's a collaborative effort from all of the players to forge this brand new story rather than being, the term we use is railroaded through
Oh no.
the narrative.
Okay.
Through this narrative, and that's not a problem. Like, some people, there are people who enjoy that kind of play style, and there are people who enjoy that kind of freedom and flexibility to go, yeah, okay, I want to, sure, okay, the DM just said that there's a dragon threatening this village over here, but I don't really want to do that. I want to go and explore the opposite
Yeah,
direction and walk out
right.
here. So I'm going to completely ignore what you just said and make you as the DM come up with something off the top of your head, totally on the fly, to
Yeah.
try and keep me entertained.
Yeah, and I think that that's really fun, and I think it takes a really limber and facile DM to manage those kinds of moments. So you had told me in like our conversations prior to this that the world that you work in actually weaves in some like technology or some not like high technology, but some like steampunk level or what's the right word for it? Like industrial technology.
Yeah, so the word I'm using is Magitech, which at the moment, I mean, I might come up with something a little bit more original for it by the time we sort of get to the point of really looking to publish things. Way back, so being able, and that's been lost, and so we, through the series of events that have been the plot of the campaign that I've been playing with my players at the moment, the idea that I'm leading to is that once I get to the point of sort of writing the real campaign setting and the story, is that this is, the early stages of this world rediscovering how to harness this form of energy that is, pretty much brand new. So utilizing kind of the idea of how things operate with steampunk, but instead of being steam powered, it's magic powered. So,
Got it. Okay. That sounds great. And
yeah.
I really hope that I've chosen cards that can really speak to that, that can allow us to explore that aspect a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm hoping to do is, I think I said to you before, like what I'm hoping to do is basically sort of use this as kind of the foundation for what I will turn into a one-shot adventure set in this world. So kind of in my head, the idea is that this character will either be, either the quest giver for that particular adventure, or maybe the big bad of that, the villain of that particular adventure, depending on what the cards say.
So that's interesting, because I remember another thing that you had mentioned is that you weren't necessarily tied to the idea of a singular narrative.
That's right.
That you're not necessarily like a writer would be looking for an arc, and really
Yeah.
more like what you're looking for is like this kind of loose archipelago of set pieces.
That's right. Yeah. So,
Right?
I mean, as a writer, I do sort of, like I do love narrative, and I have novels that I'm working on and other bits and pieces that do have that arc. But the way I would like to do things is to actually have more of this kind of, I guess, episodic type of nature, where smaller stories that all kind of conjoin because they're joined by the same setting. Yeah.
Let's
And
rather than keep talking about what we're gonna do,
let's
what do
get
we
in
just
and
like
do it.
let's just do it, right? And then we'll see how it goes.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's start with a motivation, and you can choose more than one if you think that might be helpful. Your first option is to reclaim their honor, or it's this way, to get absolution or forgiveness from another.
Okay. Yeah.
To gain control over their own life, or to uncover a hidden truth.
Oh, definitely in context of the world, I think that uncovering a hidden truth is absolutely in there.
Okay, great.
That's definite. Just having a look at these other ones, and I might just add the gaining forgiveness or absolution from another in there as well, just to kind of put a little bit of extra twist into it. The uncovering a hidden truth certainly sort of gives that idea for, like a single adventure kind of thing. I need you to go and search for something, or however it operates. But then there's that longer story that comes through with maybe there's someone that they need to get that forgiveness or absolution from.
Yeah, the way they strike me as a pair is, one is very macro in terms of it is like a pursuit of finding something that affects everyone, whereas the other one, like the forgiveness, is very specific and very personal and very intimate.
Yes. Yeah.
So now that we've done that, let's now take a look at some occupations for our potential characters. One is a potion master. One is a scout. Your third occupation is a royal advisor.
Interesting.
Or a mechanic.
Oh, that's an interesting selection.
And I wasn't sure, how much, whether potion master implies magic, or if it really is just like somebody who is mixing, almost like a chemist.
Yeah, I mean, potion master to me says chemist or alchemist. So I probably am going to push that one off to the side as the first one to be eliminated. I think I'm going to lean into the royal advisor kind of role, because that, someone who's in a royal advisor kind of role probably has, that closeness to, information that might have heard about what this hidden truth is that they're going to be searching for, or it's going to be being looked after. So yeah, let's go with that one. Let's go to royal advisor.
So now we're going to choose their strengths and their flaws. Their strengths are obviously qualities about them that are very useful, that are actually proving to be helpful in them getting what they want and moving through the world and finding success. All right. So your first one is merciful.
Yeah.
Next one is proactive. Takes action by creating change instead of only reacting to change when it occurs.
That's fitting, yeah.
Next is decent. They have a strong sense of the basic respect and dignity others are entitled to. So somebody with boundaries, somebody with a very clear sense of where the line is.
Yeah, yeah.
And then altruistic, somebody unselfishly concerned for or devoted to the welfare of others.
Oh, I like that. You know, this one, I think this one's easy. Proactive jumped right out at me. Royal Advisor who is proactive. I think this is a good strength, but it can also be, be kind of, I wouldn't say a weakness, but, not 100% positive trait where they sense of maybe they can be too proactive at times, and maybe
Mhm.
that's part of what's going on here with the narrative is that, okay, well, there's this information and no one else in the in the hierarchy of power is putting enough priority on it, so I'm going to come over here and try and get this party of adventurers to help me find this
Oh,
information off
okay.
the
All right.
side.
So
So
so somebody who's willing to kind of go off script.
yeah,
That
yeah,
sounds great.
I think I'm going to lean into that one.
The first one we have is fanatical, somebody blindly devoted to a belief or a cause.
Yeah.
Next is indecisive, somebody who is overwhelmed by the options or the possibilities.
Hmm.
Self-involved, someone who's really overly consumed with themselves and their feelings, their thoughts, and like their narrative.
Yep.
And then, oh, this would be a really interesting one. Ignorant, lacks knowledge or education, or adheres to a narrow set of beliefs or an incoherent set of beliefs.
Oh, oh, that's good.
And for a royal advisor, that's such a bonkers trait to have. But not to sway you in any way, but that just
No,
struck
no,
me
I
as a
mean,
weird thing for a royal advisor to be.
absolutely. And I like it. I think again, I'm thinking, contextually from the bigger picture. The only issue I've got there is that if I kind of lean on that one too much as sort of, one of the flaws of this character, does that end up meaning that the hidden truth that they're trying to uncover, all of this thing actually turns out to be just a false, a wild goose chase? Like
Oh,
the
interesting.
uncovering the hidden truth is actually that there was no hidden truth to uncover. And as good as a story as that potentially could be, when you think about the fact, thinking about it from a DM perspective and, like player agency and player motivation, you don't really want to take your 4 to 6 players on this, entire adventure, only to go, guess what? There was nothing to find at the end anyway.
Right, right.
um,
And not to project too much onto your world, but it
mhm.
also strikes me as, if this is an unknown truth, this hidden truth,
Yeah,
there could be a lot of, if it's something from legend that is like reawakening or that is proving to be, was thought to be just sort of like like folklore that is actually proving to be real. There could be
yeah,
a lot of preconceived notions about what it is and whether it's good or bad or scary or powerful, or so the ignorance could be about what really the truth of the matter is, and
yeah,
it could
yeah,
put your guy in a position to have to really shed his preconceived notions really quickly. Like how fast can he reboot his understanding of things that he
yeah,
thought he had a good grasp on.
yeah, yeah. In my head, the two that are kind of standing out to me are fanatical and egocentric. I think egocentric kind of, especially for someone in that royal advisor role, puts that kind of foundation to the character of, like I'm career driven, I'm focused solely, and so part of the motivation for, for potentially, the way we've gone so far is that, my head's kind of leaned into the quest giver rather than the antagonist in this particular case.
Oh, okay.
And so the egocentric nature is also therefore going, okay, well, no one else is doing enough to, I don't think anyone else is doing enough to find out, more information about whatever that hidden truth happens to be. But also that extra motivation of, right, and if I'm the one that brings this to light, brings this information to light, then that's going to serve me and my career and my ambition,
Oh, I love that.
to step up, and become more well known. So I think I'm going to lean to the self-involved one.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave fanatical on the table for a second. I think let's leave both of them on there.
Okay.
because I think the fanatical aspect can potentially tie into that secondary motivation of seeking forgiveness and absolution
Sure. Okay.
from another. I think there's a bit of a tie there to go, okay, I've got some sort of zealous devotion to some sort of cause or belief, and that is somehow tied to something from my earlier life where, some sort of traumatic event or something where I'm committed to trying to find absolution for it. So I think it could
And
hit
also
both of those.
you also can use the forgiveness or absolution aspect as something that they learn about or realize. They may not know it
Yes.
at first, but they
Yeah.
may, have a character arc that leads them to realizing that they need to take ownership of something, or that that
Yeah.
there are other people besides them that involved. It,
Yes. Yeah.
it could be a place that they get to along the way, just emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think that you're threading the needle really well between it feels like this character has like an uppercase and a lowercase motivation going on, or like a story, like almost
Yeah.
like a maximum or like and a minimum, where there's something big that is really impactful to the world, and then like a personal story that is tracking alongside it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's, that's probably, that what you were talking about with that sort of dual narrative thing at the beginning is that, yes, there's, in this sense of what we're of trying to do it as a NPC for a campaign, we've got, yes, the primary adventure point, which to me right now is okay, I'm going to hire the party to go and uncover this information. But then as a potential serial NPC where, they're not just a once off, okay, I've given you the quest, once you come back, here's your gold and you never see me again. One of those
Mm-hmm.
sort of repeat characters, or recurring characters, you do want to have that extra depth to them, and almost make them a fully fleshed out character in themselves, to ensure that the party and the players sort of feel a connection to them as well. So
Cool. Okay, great. I'm glad that you see how this, that there's no question in your mind about how this applies. That's great. The given circumstances category is some detail of their existence, right? Or of their present situation that could be internal, it could be environmental, it could be societal. So you might find it could be a strength or a skill that they have, or a phobia or a hang up that they're stuck on. It could
yep.
be a physical ailment or an illness, it could be a special skill that they have, or it could be financial, family. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, it's a phobia. Uh, Haphophobic, I believe is how you say that, which is a fear of being touched,
I've never heard of it, but
right? Your next
maybe I
one,
have that.
your next one is has a prominent scar,
Okay. Yep.
has alcohol or substance abuse issues,
Mm-hmm.
is in financially dire circumstances.
Ah.
And this, I think, is kind of a little on the nose, but we still might be something there. Is skilled at chess or Go or games of strategy.
Oh, I like that. My first one straight away, again, one of them jumped out at me, and that is the prominent scar. And
Mm.
in my head, that's tying into this sort of, you know, absolution background,
Oh, okay.
secondary plot. There's, when we're
Cool.
talking about the fact that there's some sort of, like I said, that forgiveness or absolution is to me hitting this sort of, there's some sort of traumatic event in their backstory. Let's say that's left some sort of prominent scar on there. It gives a little bit more of a physical representation of
Oh,
that.
nice. Oh, I see.
Um,
Okay.
and something to actually kind of at least generate a little bit of intrigue. If it's something very prominent, almost like the Hound or something from Game of Thrones with,
Oh, wow.
the big
Sure.
burn or something on the face, whatever. I'm not going to copy that, but something, something that visible,
Right.
that's basically everyone who meets this person is going to go, oh, what happened? How did that happen? Type of thing. So I think that's definitely in there. I don't think I need any of the other ones. I think
Okay.
that stands by itself. Like, yeah, let's just leave that with there. Let's not try and overcomplicate.
That sounds great. So we've got three more categories to go. And like I said, we really
Yep.
start to reach outward into the world, into the past, into other characters with these.
Yes.
The first one is the secrets category, something that they are keeping
Yes.
to themselves. First one is has a sibling they think is disturbing and unbalanced.
Oh.
Next, they inherited a key to a long lost mechanized warrior that will obey their commands when the key is inserted.
Oh.
Next is someone they know is conducting experiments that fuse steam-powered mechanics with cadavers.
Bit of Dr. Frankenstein going
Yeah, a
on.
little. Yes, it's a little bit. It's like steampunk plus necromancy.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, and your fourth one is had a hand in the initial spark of conflict that led to the gang warfare that has consumed their city.
Oh wow. Oh, these are amazing. I
Right
love
on,
these.
right on.
And this is why, this is why I'm so keen to, to see, or, like I've been printing out all the PDFs anyway, but because like all the samples and things that you've sort of shown us over the course of the Kickstarter campaign, I just like they just make my creative mind go into overdrive. So,
Super. Oh, that's so cool.
you
I
know,
love to hear that.
this is, like I'm already sort of going, oh, these are all such great sort of, start points for stories. I'm absolutely from the point of view of, this sort of like the adventure thing, I'm absolutely leaning towards the maybe not necessarily inherited, but have somehow acquired this
Yeah.
key to a long lost mechanized warrior. I
Oh,
think,
great.
that's absolutely perfect for the, for that primary story. Um Sorry, can you put the other three back
Oh,
on
of course.
there?
Yeah.
Sorry for a
Yeah.
second, because I just want to see whether any of those kind of tickle my ideas for, again, for this traumatic backstory aspect. The gang warfare is not going to be one of them. What's the? Sorry, I can't. The steampunk one is just off the bottom of my screen, so I can't
Oh,
see what
sorry.
it
Is
is.
yep, mine too.
Conducting experiments that fuse steam-powered mechanics with cadavers. So that would be probably the other option for
Oh, wow. All
the
right.
primary story, to be honest. So let's throw that one out. But let's keep the sibling.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry. I
other way around. Let's
misunderstood.
keep this. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep the sibling, because I think that's again, drawing back into the deeper past for this character, and has,
Yes.
has impacts into that secondary narrative of giving them depth and potentially some of these things that could form part of a longer interaction between the party and this particular NPC
And
and all of their.
one of the strong what's the right word for it? Side effects. Yeah, side effects of this card system, and I didn't necessarily set out to have it be this way, is when the cards start to point towards other characters from a person's past or present, it starts to populate the world with possible antagonists, possible mentors,
Yes.
possible love interests. So you can start to possible, friends or teammates or trusted allies. So the
Yeah.
cards start to tell you like, okay, if I'm looking for an antagonist, now we suddenly have a real strong candidate, or
Yes.
someone
Yeah.
that needs a rescue, someone that they need that forgiveness from. It could go in any direction, but suddenly we've got all these options that pop.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I can absolutely see, okay, they've got this sibling that they think is disturbing and unbalanced, and maybe they are,
Yeah,
and but that entire, that's almost a trope in itself. The siblings that have been separated because of some traumatic event that happened way back in their childhood, and they
right.
haven't really ever spoken since. And this is potentially that entire thing of, okay, well, in my I haven't spoken to my sibling for 25 years, but in my heart of hearts, I do want to seek that forgiveness, or give that forgiveness, or that absolution, and reconnect that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that absolutely ties in with, that secondary.
And at the same time, you can want all those things, and that can all be true, but also that person maybe scares you a little bit. Maybe there's
Yeah,
something,
absolutely.
like maybe there's something about them that you're like, yes, I didn't do the best I could in that situation, or like I really, really made a mess of that, and I
Yeah.
really wish that I could smooth that over, but yet that person is, frightens me, is capable
Yes.
of who knows how that interaction is going to go or what it's going to
Yeah,
lead to.
well, yeah. Well, the way this is sort of, leaning, and I'm again not locking things in, but big prominent scar, so potentially this it's because of some interaction with the sibling, and so yeah, of course you're going to have kind of hesitancy because you've got this prominent physical reminder of the last time you
Of how
interacted.
of how badly it went the last time.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So the next category is formative events.
Hmm.
Something from their past that has had a very outsized impression on the person they've become in the present.
Yeah.
So in this situation, and this might require a little bit of like a little interpretive dance around this.
Yeah.
Um, Fell in love with a roguish, deceitful aeronaut who left them and stole something precious. Maybe your
Interesting.
world is not really into aeronauts, but the idea of someone flashy coming into their life and getting through their armor, so to speak,
Yeah.
getting underneath their skin and
Yeah.
essentially scamming them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that idea of, the Royal Advisor, who you think, can really see the whole chessboard,
Hmm.
and somebody coming in and outplaying that person. That's got to be a real strategist, first of all, a real powerful presence, and someone that they really must have had strong feelings for to allow such a big blind spot.
Yes. Yeah.
Spent years trapped in a nightmare world at the hands of a supernatural enemy.
Ooh.
Next is the sole survivor of a famed guild of adventurers known to have been wiped out in a betrayal by an ally.
Oh.
And one more.
Yeah.
Uh, an evil wizard, unknown to them, destroyed their home or place of business, claiming they were exacting revenge.
Okay. You know what I love, just looking at this is is the integration of so many, like I'm just looking at the tops of these cards and the integration of so many of the different categories that you've
Oh,
got
that's
here
true. I meant to bring
to
that up. They really are all over the place, right?
yeah, yeah. Which I love. Like I'm loving, I saw one of the ones that was sci-fi, now we've got horror and urban fantasy. And so we've got all of these different kind of things, and they're all suitable to help with this sort of process. So I think again the first one to jump out is that sole survivor of a famed guild of adventurers.
No kidding. Okay, great.
This background story is this secondary background story is taking more and more form as it goes. I'm kind of going, okay, maybe I don't need to worry about that fanatical one from up above after as much because the stories kind of or the ideas are starting to fit there. And that again, that sole survivor of a famed guild, again, that could potentially tie into this estranged sibling idea somehow. That's potentially all tied in together as part of this traumatic event that left them scarred and maybe pulled them out of the adventuring place, and that's why they're now they were partly the party strategist in their adventuring guild, blame themselves for how it all went down and basically sort of retreated, but then their mind was identified and they've kind of been pulled into the Royal Advisory Committee and kind of been rising up through the ranks in the years since, or something like that. Like mine's going into overdrive still.
No, and just like the card of the sibling, this introduces possibly several other characters.
Yes.
Right
Yeah.
now they are dead. To the best of our knowledge, that doesn't mean that that's correct or that they have to stay that way. If they become
It's a
useful to you, then you can absolutely pull them right out of the Captain America deep freeze and put them right back in the story.
it's a world of magic. Resurrection is
Yeah, yes. And
is
don't we have
possible.
did we keep the card about messing with cadavers, or did that one kind of go off the
We
board?
didn't know that was the kind of other one. So that was alongside the long lost mechanized warrior, and going, okay, that would potentially be the other option for a kind of single adventure idea. But I think I like the idea of this long lost mechanized warrior. In part only because I've already done a little bit of that in the campaign that I've been running, but
Oh, that's great. Okay, so it actually
um,
has made a little bit of a cameo appearance already, and it's something that you can develop further.
not exactly that one, but yes, yeah, the idea of this kind of automaton or something that is powered by this Magitech process
Okay,
definitely
great.
has
And
that
it
kind of
certainly
thing.
does. I mean, I think that it's more than a MacGuffin in that, like, it's a really cool thing to go after and try to find
Yeah.
or to try to, and then you find it and then you've got to find out how to power it up again. And then maybe you have to
Hmm.
battle it. Maybe you can then get control of it. In terms of
Yep.
a gaming circumstance, I feel like there's like 4 or 5 different things that can do for you story
Yes.
wise.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm already sort of going, okay, like again, from the position of being this royal advisor, maybe there's, you know, not necessarily active conflict, but I'm thinking of some of the nations in the world that have, at least sort of semi-volatile borders, and going, okay, this character's learned of this key, and and this way to activate this long lost mechanized magitech warrior. What are those mech warrior type
Right.
things, but
And you wonder
it's
if it becomes something that one of your players can actually get inside and
potentially,
and
yeah,
operate,
yeah.
like a tank or like a suit.
Yeah, no, but that works really well, because then they're going, if I can find this, then it gives us an advantage in this potential conflict, and then the ruler, whoever that happens to be, will sort of go, oh look, yes, okay, you're amazing for finding this and securing our country and all that kind of thing. And
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so that's all tying in.
Um,
Again, I like this, the roguish, deceitful aeronaut, except that we've already kind of got a couple of NPCs, and with the Guild of Adventurers and the sibling, I don't think I want to add another
okay, that just introduce
additional
another player.
and another,
Sure.
and yet another character onto the side here. If I was writing a novel or something, then that would be probably a different consideration. But this is the thing with writing an NPC, is you're not creating the star of the story. You're creating kind of the mentor, or like I said, the quest giver, or someone like that. So you've got to remember that the star is actually the people that are interacting with this person.
That's so great. And I'm so excited to see, like in real time, how the system can function in that way. That it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
that actually what we're trying to do is really adjust the volume of the characters that we're creating so that they exist to create an interesting roadmap for others. It's almost like
yeah.
building a kind of like a haunted house.
I'm just going to go just with the Adventurers Guild. I think, but
Okay. There's one more category, and
mhm,
it is the inciting incident category. What is the event
yes,
that is happening in the moment that is setting our protagonist on the journey of their story? So it
yeah,
could be, I guess, something happening to the royal advisor or something happening to the party,
mhm,
that then they make contact with the royal advisor or whatever. I gave you an extra one because I really wasn't sure how these were going to land.
sure.
Instead of the expected boon of plenty, a holy relic they requested to retrieve unleashes a cursed plague upon the land.
Oh,
And so I feel like, again, with some interpretation, you could really downplay the magical aspect of this and make it
mhm,
more about like the thing they thought was going to be the answer turned out to actually just make the problem worse,
mhm,
or that introduced an element of chaos into the situation that just made things raise the stakes even higher.
yeah.
Their longtime friend and traveling companion is revealed to be a doppelganger who replaced their actual friend years ago.
Oh, maybe not everyone did die in that Adventuring Guild wipeout.
Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's so good. Has discovered a way to extract and store human life force. A local warlord holds a friend hostage and forces them to spy on an enemy army amassing at the border of his lands.
Okay, there we go.
So that is probably the most political of them all,
Yep.
but I thought that it might be useful.
It's
And
probably
then,
the most apt for where things have been going so far.
okay, um, must accept a quest that makes them very visible or vulnerable to an old enemy.
I can see the holy relic, blah blah blah. The first one that came up being kind of the end of the adventure.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Twist, like, okay, we find this, the party finds this, this powerful mechanical warrior thing, but then, in doing that, unleashes some sort of hell upon the land, as a possibility. I don't know that I want to do that in this particular context, but I could see that working more as that kind of end of the thing rather than the inciting incident based on what we've been working on so far. The scientific, the way to extract and store life force, I think that's kind of already happened. That's kind of not talking about life force, but the concept of this magical energy being able to be concentrated and used to power energy and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Is that thing. So I think that would just, if we did it with life force as well, it would complicate it. And again, it doesn't necessarily fit with where things have been establishing so far.
Sure.
The local warlord holding a friend hostage and forcing them to spy on the enemy, that one actually probably fits where my head is at for everything else.
Okay.
The best. And I'm just trying to decide whether to have that kind of, okay, there were actually 2 survivors from this sort of adventurers guild, and one of them has been a doppelganger. I think no, only because, again, that kind of, to me, feels like a thing that I would include in a story where this character is the main protagonist. While I want to put depth into this character, I don't want to have them so deep that said
again,
earlier that
it's about
the
adjusting
story.
the volume, right? Like we don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
them to. Let me ask you this: in the backstory of your players, do any of them have like an old friend or someone that they used to relate to or have a relationship with that you could bring back?
That's always potential. That's the advantage of, I guess, you're getting players who give you good backstories.
Yeah.
Like, they'll give you a certain amount, but then, as in my role, I then get to actually take what they've given me and then go, okay, how does this fit into the world? But I think in this context, I just am going to stick with the warlord one.
Oh, okay. So that leads me to because, and again, we don't have to thread all this together like it's a hero's story. We're just
Yeah,
creating like a very delicious table setting.
that's exactly right. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
we've got a couple of key players that I feel like, let's take a look at. We've got this sibling who I think is like
Yes.
really, really important and
Yep.
definitely could become a villain that they have to, could be like a sort of like boss monster, if you will, like
Yep.
someone that they have to go up against or someone whose territory they have to, could be involved in this political situation. We've got that character. We've got this warlord. We've got someone who betrayed their party in the past. Another potential antagonist or someone who really crossed them. And
In my head, I think that's all that's the sibling. I'm not sure exactly how I'm tying those 2 together, but
okay,
I think the betrayal came from the sibling.
okay.
Yeah, I've got to work the details out, but I think that ties into the same person.
Do you think that would be a detail that would be discovered, or do you think that your royal advisor would know that going in?
That's a really good question. I actually I think, yeah, let's given that, part of the thing is the absolution forgiveness angle and everything, let's suggest that they do know. Maybe they didn't know at first, but they have found
They've
out
since
since.
found
Like,
out.
they've actually, yeah, they've, being this proactive and self-absorbed type of person, I think, in the background of their life, as they've been continuing on after they got over that initial grief, they would have been continuing to investigate that. So they may have found that out in the years since. This was my sibling's retribution for whatever earlier
Oh,
thing
okay. All right.
estranged us in the first place. So, yeah.
So this betrayal that led to the loss of his adventuring party was actually retribution for.
For whatever happened between them in the first place. Yeah. I'm also going to change the pronouns. I'm leaning into this character being female,
I love it.
I think.
The advisor character or the
Yeah,
or
the
the sibling.
advisor. The
Okay.
advisor.
So these, so we've got the sibling, we've got the betrayer, and we've already tied those two together.
Yep.
And then we've got
And then
this,
the wall.
and then we've got a warlord character. And then
Yes.
on the other side of things, I feel like the sibling lives in both camps here in terms of allies and or enemies. Like it could really be
Potentially.
right there. It could be
Yeah.
both.
So this is where that dual narrative kind of comes in, is, when we're talking about that sort of initial quest adventure. So yeah, in my head, we've got this initial quest adventure, and that's going to be, okay, the main antagonist there is the warlord. This is where they've got to find the key to the mechanized warrior, however that happens to unfold,
Uh,
and that kind of thing. And then the sibling story is that kind of longer term secondary narrative that can be there as a potentially a longer term campaign goal.
okay. So really it becomes about the key to the warrior.
Yes, yeah. In this initial setup, yeah.
And in terms of allies along the way, depending on how conscious you want it to be, the warrior could either be a suit or it could be a robot or it could be a character. It could actually
Correct. Yeah.
have a certain level of consciousness. So
Yes.
that's kind of totally up to you. But you've got a friend. This is a detail that I feel like you can choose to take or leave. The friend held hostage. Do we feel like you can have any motivation that forces the players to do this warlord's bidding? Do you think that this warlord would be aware that there is almost this gold rush to get control of this new power source, or this, whatever you want to call it, that whoever gets this and figures that out first is going to have an immense advantage?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that until, yeah, but that could be, this mech warrior, whatever it happens to be, could actually be within the land controlled by that warlord,
Oh wow,
rather
okay.
than okay, so our Royal Advisor has discovered that secret, but then is now being forced, or has their friend held hostage, and is sitting there going, right, what do I do? How do I, get my friend back? How do I also get my hands on this new technology that will help us in the potential war against our neighboring country?
So they actually have to go into the enemy's territory to find
Into
to
Yeah,
the
into the warlord's territory. Yeah,
oh wow,
yeah,
okay. That's cool. That's a really fun location to play in, for them to have to like
yeah,
sneak around and not be seen or draw attention to themselves.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That
I
like
think
really
that's
ups this sort of paranoia, rather than
yes,
be in like a neutral place where they can just sort of be themselves and not have to worry about it. There is this, everywhere they go, there is a
yep,
potential threat or the risk of being discovered.
yes, yeah, exactly. So
This is
no, that
fun. I like doing like
yeah,
I really like doing it this way. This is like a different, a totally different approach where we're really just trying to like create these. It's almost like you're like hiding Easter eggs or like winding up little bombs to blow up in someone's face like later on.
yeah, yeah, and that's the so and that's the way you're trying to do it. You kind of you're trying to create a narrative that will keep people engaged and keep people involved, and wanting to make their own and be able to make their own choices as to how they go about and how they solve. It's kind of like writing a really complicated choose your own adventure book.
Yes. Oh wow, that's so good. You've got these dangling here are the other adventurers. Whether you
Yes.
want one of them to reappear, was thought dead but is comes back, whether they come back in some kind of like, I don't know how much like the spirit world or the afterlife plays into your world, but maybe there are messages that are left either in writing or through like, I don't know, like a just video. Is there a like a hologram, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, like some version of that in your
Yeah, yeah.
world where those characters can resurface.
That's it's Yeah, I haven't figured out potentially what I'd want to do with that. I think, the big thing was tying in that kind of backstory aspect with the sibling and the and fulfilling that longer term aspect.
Here's something
It's
I do feel like also we didn't we have a card that said has to take a quest that exposes them to a prior enemy, like that makes
There
them
was, yeah. I saw that one, and it ticked on me for a second, and then kind of again, because the hero in writing a story like this is the party rather than this particular character. I was like, well, the party's going to be the ones that are accepting the quest. This guy is the one that's recruiting them for the quest. So it doesn't necessarily prevent that particular one from that particular event from being part of it. But I think, that's kind of a side story that wouldn't necessarily be impactful to the narrative in the sense of what's the party's story. That's something that could, if that was happening, it's happening off to the side of where the focus is, where the party's going into this warlord's territory, trying to find this, this MacGuffin,
right,
and
right.
free this person's friend. So
Be the friend. And okay, so here's what I have. And you let me know if you think that this is useful. This is your story. And I want to
yeah,
really stress that like I have no investment in what's useful and what's not to you.
yeah,
I'm really just sort of like the Mr. Rourke of this whole situation. Like I'm just
yeah,
really here to facilitate. But what if they go into the enemy territory? We've got this warlord who is this like bad guy up here. What if the warlord has the person kind of propelling this is this royal advisor to the king, right? And they have this sort of advisory job.
yeah.
What if the warlord has that same kind of person, that same right hand man, and that right hand man is the sibling?
That's nice.
And the sibling, so basically the sibling is like how like in stories there's that role, that archetypal role of like the right hand man who's like the muscle, but also is
Yeah,
crazy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like there's like the machinating big bad guy, and they've got this like psychopath that goes
yeah.
out and does like all their wet work for them.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm wondering if that can't be the sibling, and that it becomes a big
That's
reveal where now that puts the sibling back in play as a present threat, and that they are actually like a really powerful problem for the party.
that has some real potential. Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to, to put that in. I don't know. I'm not 100% on it, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think it sits there in the consideration for sure of going, yeah, okay, that's bringing that into, because that then allows us to go from this initial adventure, that potentially allows us to go from this initial adventure where where the focus is on the warlord, on freeing the hostage, on finding the tech, and then this reveal opens up that longer term story for for future adventures and things like that, and for future conflict and drama
Sure.
that's going to happen. So
And again, I'm not trying to sell you on this,
no,
but
no, no.
the idea that this is actually like an enemy that they have to battle that keeps like getting in their face.
Yeah,
So where the warlord sort of like isn't as down, like boots on the ground. He's sort of like back
hmm,
in his keep or his castle or whatever.
yeah,
But then we've got this other character that is really like up in their face at various times where is leading a gang of bad guys or whatever, and then it creates this nice like balance where they've actually both the royal advisor and the sibling have almost become mirror images of each other, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
as
yeah.
this sort of like right hand to the king on two different sides of a
Yeah.
war.
And I can see that working, like the sibling being almost that kind of, again, to bring a Game of Thrones reference, Varys kind of character, where he's the kind of also has the network of spies and things. So that's how
Yeah,
he's
yes.
how all of this information has been discovered, how they figured out who the best person is to take hostage, all this network of information that has found brought them all back, um, and kind of ties that all in together. The sibling being obsessed with having this obsession with continuing obsession to like they've succeeded in destroying this person once by killing all of their by destroying their adventuring guild, and now they're watching them from here going, they're rising up again, they're succeeding again. Okay, and that's how they started ingratiating themselves to this warlord, to to enact this plan of going, I am going to ruin you again. Like, I don't care how it's going to happen. I'm going to, this is my obsession, is like, I cannot stand the idea of you looking like you're going to succeed again.
Yeah,
So,
you don't get to move on. You don't get to. I love that.
so
That
while
like
this
you will.
royal advisor,
I'll never be
uh,
done with you. Like I
yeah,
will.
yeah,
There isn't. If it wasn't just once, that I every time that you put yourself back together again, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna rip you apart.
yeah, yeah. And so while this royal advisor has this sort of thing in their mind of, I want to find my sibling, I want to absolve the conflict between us, I want to, restore that relationship. On the other side, the other sibling is like, no,
No,
F you.
that's the exact opposite of what I want, because
Yeah, yeah,
I'm here to just. I'm gonna make it my mission to make you miserable. That is
yeah.
so fun, and I really hope that that it's not all just like unuseful frosting, that it becomes something that's playable, that
Oh,
it
absolutely. Yeah,
right
yeah.
that it is something that the players can get like into the middle of, and that
Yes.
it makes that it's motivating for them, and not just, like you said, like almost as if the players are moving through your novel that you wrote.
That, yeah, yeah. And I think like, certainly I can, I'm seeing this as that potential story to walk them through. And these are all sort of reveals and bits and pieces, and sort of, like triggers that can that enable them to go, yeah, okay, I want to follow that path. Like I said at the beginning, there's every chance that they sort of, that a party will sit there and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's the fair enough, cool, but we're off to chase a dragon now. We do, like, not every trigger that you put in front of them, they do they take hold of.
It sounds like it,
Yeah.
but I think
Sit there
that
and put a side quest in front of someone. You're like, you're walking down the road and you see this, and they're like, yeah, but we've got to do, we've got this in front of us. We're doing this. Okay, I put 3 hours into designing this side quest for you, but go ahead. And then, like I said earlier, then they sit there and go, okay, now we're going to go off on this side quest that you've put no research into, and you've got to make the entire thing up as you.
So do you feel like, I feel like, we just do you feel like that gives you enough of these islands, or these potential scenes that you
Yeah,
can enact on?
this gives me, yeah, I can see this being, yeah, really good as a, as a first step adventure, with that potential to turn into a much longer term campaign. Like, this looks, I'm really excited about about
That's
this,
great.
actually. Like, I'm looking
And
at it
then
going,
at the end of this, the last thing that we talked about a little bit ago was the idea that whatever the thing is that they're after, whether it's the mechanized warrior, or they get
yeah.
the mechanized warrior on their team and then they have to go and do something else with the warrior.
Oh, I'm
um
absolutely thinking like Magitech mech suit. Like, I'm going, when you said, you could put one of the players in there, I'm like, yes, because I mean, constructs in D&D is kind of a fairly, fairly, wouldn't say commonplace thing, but everyone know, like, okay, you've got, your golem characters, as in GOLEM, not Lord of the Rings,
sure.
where, it's a being of clay that is being magically animated, being of metal, and all these sorts of things. Just a mechanized warrior, kind of was, in the first stage, kind of being, okay, so it's just going to be another form of one of these, maybe with a little bit more ability, but actually turning it into one of those sort of mech suits where one of the players can get inside it and have these extra ability. That's something that I think, really excites me as well. So I
A
think
player would be
that's going to
very
be,
excited to do
yeah.
that. That'd be a really fun session.
Yes,
But
yeah,
then we touched on the idea that, like, at the end, as you're moving towards the end of the arc, that whatever
yeah,
the thing was that was supposed to be the solution kind of blows up in their face and makes the problem worse. And
yeah,
then it almost feels like what felt like was going to be the end of the arc of the adventure actually is only the end of, like, act 2 or the end of act 3, and now there's like another journey to be had, or
yeah.
like a deeper, suddenly you've dropped down yet another level.
Yeah, it's the end of season cliffhanger.
Yeah, yes. So the idea that
Uh,
that I'm down here at the very end of the board, so I've got to do this sort of twister act to write this
yeah,
down. The solution is the problem, or adds to the problem.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's one. I mean, again, I will. That's one that's kind of sits there in the in the I'll keep in mind thing. I don't know that I'm locked onto that idea,
No, sure. I don't think you should be.
especially with all of the political drama that's potentially sort of unfolding. You know, like we said, with the almost as a possible background option in case they don't discover that the sibling relationship or something like that. You're going,
Okay.
okay, well, what's a secondary kind of, sequel option that we can have if they haven't discovered that? Then we have that potential option there of, oh, we found this technology to solve our problem, and it unleashed X to cause bigger problems. So
Do you think that it would be a useful mechanic so that, yes, they could get the mechanized thing and play it as a mech suit? What if, what if the bad guys got it away from them, and then they had
yeah,
to either get it back or, battle it and get away from it and then figure out how to get it back?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, they could get it, but it doesn't necessarily mean in the course of their game that they get to keep it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So there's all those kind of options there, and this is the joy of, I guess this is why the whole lot of that stuff sort of sits in my head and goes, yes, that's a good consideration, is because while we're sort of crafting this narrative, in the back of my mind is always going to be the players are going to influence this, and so like you've got to have, like I said, that kind of choose your own adventure thing. You've got to have 6 different options at your disposal to
Oh
go,
yeah.
okay, so if the players go left here, then what happens, versus if they go right here. So everything that they do, through from being recruited by this royal advisor into infiltrating the warlord's kingdom, finding this tech, freeing the hostage, all this sort of thing, there's infinite possibilities as to where they end up, as to how they achieve that and where they end up, and therefore, what the consequences are of each of those potential actions. So,
That is super fun. That's great. That's really,
yeah.
really, and so you feel, because we worked hard to get here. We've had to jump over several hurdles. So I want to make sure you feel like you got enough, you've got enough material to work with.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, this I can see so much coming out of this. So yeah,
That's
yes,
great.
it's been a great process.
I'm really glad. That was really fun.
Yeah,
And so thank you, because you were the one who, you were the one who suggested this. And I immediately was like, I definitely want to do one that is gaming centric. And so
yeah,
this was great. And it was very
yeah,
fun to see how the cards can serve a different, how you can use them as in a different, function that
absolutely.
relates
Yeah,
directly to like D&D or to tabletop RPG.
yeah, absolutely. The versatility that you've got in there is just phenomenal. Like anything character driven. Said I'm excited to play with it more. So yeah,
Killer, right on. I will, if you want, I'll take a picture of this and I'll send it to you.
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
taken some notes, but I think you've got more there. So
So it's still your morning. Enjoy the rest of
it
your morning.
is.
Have a great
Yep.
day. Things are
You
wrapping
have a
up
good
here.
evening. Yep.
Right on. We'll definitely stay in touch. This was really fun.
Yeah.
It was great to hang out with you and get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
So thanks again for being here and for doing this with us. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
right
All
on.
right.
See you
See you.
later.